Hey everyone, we've updated our channel name from Chinese Novel Audio Wave to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Nothing else will be changing. We're still uploading a new video every day, bringing you the best Chinese novel audiobooks. Let's dive into today's story. Chapter 21, Sorting Ceremony. The boomerang he threw out finally hit himself. McGonagall could never have imagined that the two talented students from their own school were the ones who almost caused the first freshman dropout incident in the history of Hogwarts. What's going on? There was no rush for the sorting ceremony. Mag squeezed through a passage, came to Wayne and asked sternly. She had to figure out the whole story before deciding to give the twins. Is it a 1-week confinement or a 1-month confinement? Wayne repeated it again without any exaggeration. He was just such an honest man. When he finished speaking, it was Professor McGonagall's turn to be in trouble. If you want to say it's an exaggeration, the Gemini and Cedric were just following tradition and at most described it in a little more detail. There's nothing wrong with it. But what if she were asked to do nothing and just let the twins go? Mag felt extremely uncomfortable again. This almost scared away several freshmen. We must not let this go. Okay, I can guarantee that there is absolutely no danger in the sorting ceremony. Don't worry. Now form 2 lines, keep quiet and follow me. Let's put the matter of the twins aside for now. It won't be too late to deal with it after the branch separation is completed. Despite Mag's assurance, most of the freshmen were still extremely nervous and followed her numbly. Hermione had not yet recovered, and in order to ensure that she did not fall, Wayne could only hold the little witch's smooth little hand and walk forward as if he was pulling a doll. A group of people walked out of the room, crossed the entrance hall, passed through the door on the other side, and finally entered the main hall of Hogwarts. The auditorium is extremely grand, with thousands of candles floating in the air. It is not environmentally friendly at all, but it makes the place as bright as day. 4 long tables were placed side by side, and on a slightly higher step was a guest of honor seat, where there was only 1 empty seat. The ceiling here has been enchanted to look like a real starry sky. The beautiful and magnificent scenery helped Hermione recover a lot, and she subconsciously did some scientific research. After she finished speaking, she realized that Wayne was still holding her hand, and her face turned red. Seeing that Wayne had no intention of letting go, she became even more anxious, but was too shy to say it out loud, so she could only let the boy control her. Professor McGonagall placed a high stool on the middle step of the hall with a hat on it. The hat's original color is no longer recognizable, but it was certainly not the gray-brown color it is today. After doing all this, Mag first glared at the twins from his own academy, leaving them confused, and then he walked down the stairs again and came to the front of the freshmen. Then the hat suddenly jumped and split open, and started singing like people's mouths. The old students are used to this, but the new students find it novel. A singing hat. As expected of Hogwarts, there are all kinds of weird things. Wayne listened as well, but soon lost interest. It is said that the song sung by the sorting hat is different every year. It is used once a year, and the rest of the time the hat is thinking of the lyrics. But a flop is a flop. Even if you spend a year thinking hard about it, this word is still not that good. When the song ended, everyone applauded in unison. Whoever's name I call out will put on the hat and sit down to wait for the sorting results, said McGonagall. Everyone finally breathed a sigh of relief. It's just wearing a hat, anyone can do that. Although this hat is so dirty that many clean little witches look at it with disdain, it is still better than the tests Wayne mentioned. It's so easy. Hannah Abbott. A girl with pigtails ran over in a hurry. Wayne's eyes also fell on this Iron Hat King. The young girl put the hat on her head, and in less than a moment, the sorting hat had made its decision. Hufflepuff. The people at the table on the right applauded Hannah and welcomed her. Susan Bones. Susan, who had just been in the same boat with Wayne and Hermione, took over. Hufflepuff. 2 students in a row were sorted into Hufflepuff, which undoubtedly made the Badgers very happy. Cedric applauded excitedly in the crowd. Suddenly he felt a pair of eyes staring at him. Turning his head, Wayne was looking at him with a smile. Thinking of how he had fooled Wayne on the train, The honest Cedric waved his hands at him awkwardly. Wayne didn't care. Laugh, laugh. You won't be able to laugh anymore in a while. Professor McGonagall's anger was completely ignited. Quote. Terabit. Ravenclaw. The team was dwindling, and Hermione took the time to ask Wayne which house he wanted to go to. When the little witch heard the word Hufflepuff, her face was full of disbelief. The book says that Hufflepuff should be the most mediocre house in Hogwarts. Why does Wayne want to go there? But it was too late, and Hermione was soon called according to the letter of the alphabet. She almost ran to the stool and put it on hastily. Because her head was too small, almost her entire head fit in it. Gryffindor. The hat shouted, and Wayne was not surprised. Without any external influence, it was normal for Hermione to go to Gryffindor. A few more little wizards passed by. Wayne observed that the fewest students were assigned to Ravenclaw and Slytherin, especially Slytherin, with only 2 so far. There are only 4 Ravenclaws. Hufflepuff had the most seats, which was true in fact. There were still many empty seats at the tables of other houses, but Hufflepuff's tables alone looked very full. Neville Longbottom. McGonagall shouted again. When Neville put on the hat, it took a long time for the Sorting Hat to call out Gryffindor. Neville excitedly ran with the hat on, causing a burst of laughter. He blushed and trotted back to put the hat away. Wayne was sure that at this moment Neville definitely wanted to turn into Rifle and hide somewhere where no one could find him. Wayne Lawrence. Mag finally called Wayne's name. All the freshmen looked at Wayne. They were frightened by the deception just now, and Malfoy gritted his teeth. Many senior schoolmates' eyes also lit up. What a cute little wizard. Come into your sister's arms and let your sister love you well and check your magic wand. In the guest of honor seat, Dumbledore raised his head, his glasses reflecting the light, and curiosity welled up in his heart. Which house will this little genius, who can spontaneously use the Patronus charm as soon as he gets the wand, be assigned to? Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Wayne slowly picked up the hat and put it on his head. Soon, a voice sounded in my mind. Oh, what an interesting little wizard. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 22 The Sorting Hat. What's your connection to Hufflepuff? In fact, it was during the summer vacation, when I just received the admission letter from Hogwarts. Wayne is a little afraid of the Sorting Hat. He has too many secrets, including cheats, his identity as a time traveler, and his memory of being familiar with the plot. Each of these is a shocking secret. Once people find out about this, they will probably want to slice him up and study him. But with the understanding and mastery of magic, and more analysis, Wayne discovered that the Sorting Hat was not as scary as he had imagined. This hat brings together the wisdom of the 4 founders and has the ability to send young wizards to the academy that best suits them. But this does not mean that the Sorting Hat can see through a person's memory. He could only see the most superficial thoughts, and like legilimency, he could also detect the shining points in the little wizards to help them identify the schools. So, Wayne simply carried out a few mind transfer exercises and stopped worrying about it. On the contrary, Old Deng is the one who needs more attention. If one day I meet the eyes of Old B and I am thinking about something related to the plot or the system, I will be in big trouble. You're not nervous at all. Returning to Lightang, the Sorting Hat and Wayne are communicating with each other. In nearly 1,000 years, the Sorting Hat has seen all kinds of little wizards, but there are not many who are as relaxed as Wayne. Why are you so nervous? Wayne asked back. It's just these 4 colleges. Can you really expel me? Of course not, kid. The Sorting Hat responded cheerfully, but I can shout, Azkaban, and I think that should work well. I once heard Dumbledore complain that Azkaban has become a refresher course for Hogwarts. With your talent, it won't be a problem for you to go indirectly. Wayne remained calm. That's the Ministry of Magic's territory. You don't have the ability to do that. Just kidding. If he had SS-level dark magic talent, he might panic for a few seconds. But now, an A+ talent in the dark arts is certainly not bad, but it depends on what you compare it to. With all his SS-level talents, Wayne can be described as stupid when it comes to black magic. Snort. Seeing that Wayne was not scared, the Sorting Hat snorted and began to perform its duties, chattering in Wayne's mind. Overflowing with talent, this comfortable feeling reminds me of Dumbledore back then. How about Gryffindor? You don't like Gryffindor. Hey, boy, be polite to the academy my master founded, although I don't like those little lions very much. They always want to give me a bath. Then Slytherin. There is no doubt that you can reach the top there, but your ambition. Merlin's bitter tea seed, why is your ambition this? If I sort you into Slytherin, I will be hated by the Slytherins. Wayne's face rarely turned red. His ambition, ahem, let's not talk about it. It is our duty to strengthen the Lawrence family. Then choose Ravenclaw. Smart little brains are very popular in Ravenclaw, and you can also realize your ambitions by the way. Ravenclaw has the most girls. Wayne couldn't help it. Old hat, why don't you mention Hufflepuff? The Sorting Hat was silent. Perhaps it was because of Wayne's novel name, but more likely it was because I was amazed at Wayne's lack of self-awareness. No, the Sorting Hat asked in a messy tone, how can you tell that you have the qualities that Hufflepuff needs? What do you mean? Wayne was unhappy. Which one did I miss? Loyalty. My younger brothers were all very loyal to me. No one dared to betray me in elementary school. Sorting Hat. Is this how you understand it? Kind. I'm too lazy to step on the ants on the roadside. Persistent. I will always be SP. Wayne answered the last question with great confidence. Sorting Hat. Do you really want to go to Hufflepuff? The Sorting Hat was confused. He felt that there was nothing wrong with what Wayne said, but there were also big problems. Fortunately, the little wizard's wishes also account for a large proportion in the branch, so he asked again. Sure, hurry up, I'll bring you a set of Muggle clothing maintenance tools when I have time. It's a deal. The Sorting Hat became interested. A dirty deal was struck, and the Sorting Hat shouted, Hufflepuff. When the dust settled, the entire auditorium erupted in thunderous applause and heartfelt blessings. Except for Hermione, the little witch felt a little disappointed. She actually hoped that Wayne could come to Ravenclaw so that she would have a companion in class. It's too long. After a full 15 minutes, another Sorting Hat, a student whose sorting cannot decide on the result for more than 5 minutes, appeared in Hogwarts. All the teachers and students in the school remembered the name Wayne Lawrence. Looking back at history, there have only been 2 other hat jokes in this century besides Wayne. One is Peter Pettigrew, the deceased recipient of the Order of Merlin, first class. The other one was Professor McGonagall, who was standing next to Wayne. Looking at Wayne, who took off his hat, nodded to him, and ran to the Hufflepuff table. She thought of several possible outcomes. Wayne might go to Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, or even Slytherin. But I never expected that it would be Hufflepuff in the end. She called out the name of the next little wizard and glanced at the Sorting Hat inconspicuously. Could it be that this hat has lost its mind because it has been working for too long? This way. Cedric stood up and waved enthusiastically. The classmate next to him made room for Wayne. After he sat down, Cedric whispered, "You're really amazing. It lasted for 15 minutes. I can hardly stand it." Wayne watched in horror as Cedric rubbed his belly. "I'm starving. You guys have taken so long." "Oh, so that's what you mean." It gave him a fright. "So how long did it take you?" "Me. It'll be over in 3 seconds. Is that fast?" "Too fast." Wayne gave a thumbs up and Cedric was proud. The next students went much more smoothly, until Harry Potter appeared, causing another commotion in the hall. When he was sorted into Gryffindor, the twins and several classmates nearby almost overturned the table. Chapter 23 Professor McGonagall settles the revenge. When the last Blaise Zabini was sorted into Slytherin, Professor McGonagall rolled up the parchment, took the sorting hat and left, sitting down at Dumbledore's right hand again. The little wizards all looked at the headmaster expectantly, waiting for his order to start showing off immediately. Dumbledore stood up with a smile on his face and opened his arms. It seemed that nothing could make him happier than to have all the students gathered together. "Welcome," he said in a loud voice. "Welcome everyone to Hogwarts to start the new school year. I would like to say a few words before the banquet. They are idiot, crybaby, scum, twist. Thank you everyone. Old Deng sat down again and everyone applauded and cheered. Diagonally opposite Wayne, a little badger looked confused. What do you mean by these words, Principal? Are you a Ravenclaw? What nonsense. Of course I'm a Hufflepuff. Then why do you care about this? Just eat your food. The originally empty plates were filled with food. Roast beef, roast chicken, pork chops, lamb chops, sausages, steak, mashed potatoes, French fries, pudding, various vegetables, gravy and sauce, and even mint candy. In terms of variety, it is definitely rich, especially for the UK, which is a food desert. You can't ask for more from a country where the only food at state banquets is French cuisine. Wayne eats pretty well. He is not picky about food. As long as the ingredients are of good quality, steak, lamb chops and other dishes will not be bad no matter how they are cooked. He also saw Ron at the Gryffindor table, eating a chicken leg in each hand, and he was so busy that he wanted to eat one in a bite. Wayne felt that he should be sorted into Hufflepuff, which was a paradise for foodies. People in other academies ate and talked at the same time, but at Badger's place, the only thing they did was eat. Cedric only spoke a few words to Wayne at the beginning, and in the end, his cheeks were filled, and he did not forget to put a big chicken drumstick on Wayne's plate. He really made me cry. At the guest of honor table, Snape was talking to Quirrell. Quirrell had a scarf around his head, making him look more like an Arab. Professor McGonagall also whispered in Professor Sprout's ear, only to see that Sprout looked a little unhappy. Lawrence, can you help me get 2 Yorkshire puddings? The Iron Hat King, who was sitting 1 seat away, looked eagerly. Just call me Wayne, Hannah. Wayne gave her the pudding. The little girl smiled cutely, her pigtails swinging back and forth, and then she buried her head in her eating. A milky white ghost was sitting nearby, introducing and recommending dishes that he thought were good. Everyone called him the Fat Friar. Well, Wayne's feelings are a little subtle. The wizards who were hunted crazily by the Vatican in the Middle Ages became monks. This feeling is really hard to describe. The banquet lasted nearly an hour, and at the end a bunch of desserts were served. Wayne declined the offer. Desserts in England were like eating icing sugar, and he didn't want to develop diabetes at such a young age. Finally, the pudding disappeared, Dumbledore stood up, and the hall became quiet again. The little wizards were waiting for the principal's final lecture. But just as Dumbledore was about to speak, Professor McGonagall suddenly said, "Please wait a moment, Albus, I have something I need to take care of before you speak." Dumbledore was stunned, as this step had never happened before. But he soon smiled gently and let McGonagall speak first. Although Dumbledore was the headmaster, sometimes, when McGonagall got strict, even he had to avoid her. Although Dumbledore was nominally the headmaster, it was Professor McGonagall who was actually in charge of the day-to-day operations of the school. "George, Fred, you two will be on detention starting tomorrow. Report to Filch at 8 p.m. every night and wipe all the trophies in the trophy room 3 times. You will be released from detention when you have finished." The twins, who were still telling jokes to make the girls happy, were stunned, then stood up. "Why, Professor McGonagall?" The Gemini's eyes were full of confusion and grievance. They had a lot of bad intentions, but they had just arrived at the school and had not yet put them into practice. "Is it now fashionable to punish in advance? Are you still asking me?" Mag glared at the two of them sternly. "Who told you to intimidate the young wizards and describe the sorting ceremony as so terrifying?" Sprout also spoke with a smile. She was a plump lady who looked very gentle. "Cedric, you should go and help too." Now, both the twins and Cedric looked at Wayne. "The case is solved." Wayne lowered his head shyly, as if he was embarrassed. "Yes, Professor." The 3 of them replied dejectedly, and Cedric gritted his teeth and whispered, "You tricked us on purpose." Wayne remained calm and said, "Don't talk nonsense. I'm just a young wizard who just entered school. I don't know anything." "That's too bad, you should have been sorted into Slytherin." Cedric raised his middle finger. The twins looked at each other and laughed silently. Even though they were tricked by Wayne, what should they do if they find it more interesting? This is much more fun than their stupid brother Ron. Okay, Dumbledore said, still smiling. Seeing that you are still so energetic, I feel much more relieved. However, I still want to give you a few points of attention. First-year students, please note that no student is allowed to enter the forested area on the school grounds. Our senior students should also remember this. His bright eyes swept over the twins, but they were busy plotting how to get back at Wayne and didn't notice at all. It's like throwing a wink to a blind man. Also, Mr. Filch asked me to remind everyone not to perform magic in the corridors during class breaks. Quidditch audits will also be held in the second week of this semester. Students who are interested in joining the team can contact Ms. Hooch. Finally, I must tell everyone that anyone who does not want to suffer an accident and a painful death should not enter the corridor on the right side of the 4th floor. Wayne curled his lips in disdain. Isn't this just a case of trying to cover up one's own faults? What old Deng said was simply that he had buried all his treasures and glory in the corridor on the right side of the 4th floor. Go find it. The group of little lions are now ready to fight. And now, before we all retire to bed, let us sing the school song together, cried Dumbledore. All the teachers and students stood up, and Wayne also stood up. At the same time, the system in his mind issued a prompt. Question mark. Congratulations to the host. ... Chapter 24. Hufflepuff's Privileges. Congratulations to the host for successfully making the Weasley twins, Hufflepuff model student Cedric see the evil of human nature. Closing square bracket. Since this is the first time that the host has shown his talent at Hogwarts, the points are doubled, plus 200 points. There was chaos in the hall. Dumbledore used magic to conjure up the lyrics, but there was no music score, so he let the students improvise freely. Wayne was lip-syncing on the surface, but his mind was racing. I just tricked the twins and Cedric and got 200 points. Even if there is no first recharge, the first doubling, that is still 100 points. It seems that after the system upgrade, it is much easier for him to earn points than before. At that time, he beat up all the students in the class and only got more than 100 points. Well, Hogwarts is indeed his blessed place. If you trick the twins once, you can get 100 points. If you trick them once every 3 days, won't you be guaranteed 1 gold medal for the year? Wayne licked his lips. He had to admit, it was quite tempting. Fred and George, who were still singing the school song to the tune of Funeral March, couldn't help but shudder, as if they were being stared at by something terrible. ... The school song ended hastily, and Dumbledore was even moved to the point of wiping his moist eyes. This is the power of music. Well, it's bedtime now, let's go back to the dormitory. It was already past 8 o'clock when the sorting ceremony ended, and after another hour's meal, there was nothing wrong with Dumbledore asking everyone to go back to bed. The others ran away in a swarm, while the prefects organized the freshmen to stand in line and led them back to the lounge. Cedric was mixed in with the freshman team. Wayne, how are you going to compensate me? I don't understand what you are saying. Get some sleep tonight. You still have to go to CJB tomorrow. It's a physically demanding job. Cedric was so angry that he laughed. Don't pretend, it must be you who complained to Professor McGonagall. This is my first time in solitary confinement. What should I say? Thank you for giving your first time to Fred and George. Wayne shrugged helplessly. I didn't complain. Professor McGonagall knew it herself. If you don't believe me, you can ask Hannah or Susan. The 2 girls were not far away and had been eavesdropping on their conversation. When she was called, Susan nodded subconsciously. Cedric realized something was wrong and asked the 2 girls what happened in detail. After listening, his face turned pale. It's over. Professor McGonagall must be mad at me. I wanted to join her Transfiguration Club. Don't worry. Wayne comforted him. With George and Fred, you are at most an accomplice. Professor McGonagall will forget about it in a few days. Cedric stopped talking and made up his mind not to mess with Wayne again. This kid looks harmless, but he's actually full of bad intentions. The Hufflepuff common room is located in the school's basement, with the entrance located in a pile of large barrels on the right side of the kitchen corridor. Just tap the second barrel in the middle of the second row to Helga Hufflepuff's rhythm, and the lid will rotate to reveal the passage. Unlike Gryffindor and Slytherin, whose passwords are varied, Ravenclaw has to rack his brains to answer questions every time he enters or leaves. Hufflepuff's style of doing things is simple and practical. This password has been used since Hogwarts was founded and has never been changed. But even with such a simple password, no outsider has ever entered the Hufflepuff common room. This is also the only college with face recognition. Even if you knock at the right rhythm, but it's not a badger, the gate will not open, and vinegar of various flavors will be sprayed out of the wooden barrel to drive away the intruder. It is said that many young wizards would deliberately knock on the wrong number when they were short of money, and then take the vinegar and sell it. I don't know which unscrupulous store would buy these vinegars. These vinegars have all kinds of flavors. It would be a rip-off to give them to customers. The prefects dutifully told the young wizards all this information and demonstrated it 3 times before finally opening the door to the common room. I ducked down and crawled through the passage, and inside was a huge round room. The common room has a low ceiling and a moderate temperature. It is simple yet comfortable, with hanging or placed plants everywhere, giving it the feeling of a cabin in the woods. There are also many plush sofas and chairs on the soft floor. Wayne is very satisfied with his entertainment environment for the next 7 years. Although it is a basement, there are actually windows here, so there is plenty of sunlight. The head girl walked to the fireplace and pointed at the portrait hanging above it. It was a witch holding a golden cup and smiling brightly. This is Ms. Helga Hufflepuff. Because of her kindness, she took in many house elves and saved them from abuse and insults. So, Hufflepuffs are always treated preferentially in the kitchen. If you need anything, you can go to the next kitchen and get it. Don't be polite with them. Speaking of this, the class leader's face was filled with pride. This is a privilege that belongs exclusively to Hufflepuffs. Your politeness may seem to the elves like they haven't done their job well, and they will blame themselves. After the introduction, the rest of the time is free time. As expected of Hufflepuff, many senior students warmly entertained the freshmen, taking out snacks from various sources to treat them. He answered questions raised by freshmen very patiently and also shared a lot of his own experiences. Wayne was also talking to Cedric about the school stairs. You must not sleep in tomorrow. The stairs in the school will keep changing. If you take the wrong step, you will most likely be late. It would be fine if it was a class taught by the headmaster or Professor Flitwick. But if you're late for transfiguration or potions. Cedric shuddered and gave him a look that said, "May the best of luck." What's the point of just talking? Wayne said helplessly, I don't know what the pattern of this ghost staircase is. How about this? Cedric thought for a moment, the new students will get their class schedules at breakfast tomorrow. You should come out early and I'll show you around first. Wayne gave a thumbs up. As expected of you, Cedric, a typical Hufflepuff. Just because you are so enthusiastic, I will ensure that you are safe when the Triwizard Tournament begins. As the conversation got more lively, several class leaders took the senior students to the kitchen to get a lot of juice and hot water. It felt so good to be fed while lying down. Wayne couldn't help but admire himself for being so good at choosing a college. Until everyone felt sleepy, the number of people in the lounge gradually decreased, and Wayne also came to his dormitory through the round door. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 25. Roommates, Trick the Twins Again. Inheriting the style of the common room, the Hufflepuff dormitory is equally spacious and warm. There are 4 beds in the room of nearly 100 square meters, separated by a desk and a wardrobe, so there is enough space for everyone. When the dormitories were finally assigned, there were only 3 boys in Wayne's dormitory because there was a difference in the number of boys. Each of their suitcases had been delivered to their beds by the elves. They sorted them out as expected, washed up briefly, and lay down on the bed to have a tea party. The first thing is to introduce yourself. My name is Norman Sherlock. The blond boy whose bed was closest to the door introduced himself enthusiastically. "My family is ordinary. My dad is a school teacher and my mom is a real estate agent. When I received the admission letter, I thought it was a prank. As a result, Professor Flitwick came the next day. At first, my mother thought he was a disabled beggar and gave him £5. But later, Professor Flitwick used a spell to conjure a bison out of thin air, and then made the bison float around my house. They finally believed it." When he said this, Norman's eyes were shining. "Once he learns this trick, won't the family never lack beef?" "We are not much different." The black-haired boy sleeping between Wayne and Norman spoke. His name was Toby Brown. "My family is half and half, and my mom is a witch." Norman asked curiously, "Aren't you mixed blood? How can you say you are similar to me?" "In order to hide her identity, Mom never used magic in front of us," Toby explained. When Dad received the letter sent by Owl, he thought it was a liar, but Mom insisted that everything was true. But when Dad asked her to prove it, she hadn't used magic for a long time and she had forgotten where she lost her wand. In the end, it was Professor McGonagall who came and my dad finally believed it. Ahem. Norman laughed out loud, and Wayne, who was drinking water, was choked. "This is all weird. What about you, Wayne? Are you half-blood or Muggle-born?" Toby asked. There was no need for Wayne to introduce himself. His impressive performance in the side hall and the sorting process that lasted more than 10 minutes made every little wizard remember his name. "I was born into a Muggle family, and my reaction to receiving the notice was similar to yours, nothing special." Wayne gave a brief talk and did not introduce his family situation. It was already late, and the three of them agreed to wait in the lounge early tomorrow morning for Cedric to show them the way, and the dormitory returned to silence. It can be seen that the two roommates are easy to get along with. The only drawback is that Toby snores when he sleeps. But this doesn't bother Wayne. It was silent. Without even taking up his wand, Wayne just casually waved his hand and muted Toby, which could last for 3 to 5 hours. Sneak attack on roommate, points +5. Question mark question mark question mark. Okay, let's play it this way, okay. If you want a sneak attack, then just do it. Just give me points. ... September 2nd is the first day of school. Wayne slept until he woke up naturally at 7 o'clock, gave each of his two roommates a big pouch, woke them up, washed up, and went to the common room. Without letting the three wait any longer, Cedric appeared, rubbing his sleepy eyes. There were only 4 of them in the common room at this moment, and Hufflepuff was definitely serious about tanking. Until the last moment, few people left the dormitory, and those who came out went straight to the auditorium to eat. "Come on, go have breakfast and get your class schedule, and I'll show you around." Several people came out of the passage and soon arrived at the auditorium. The good thing about living in the basement is that it is close to the cafeteria and most of the classrooms are on the lower floors, which saves a lot of time compared to Gryffindor and Ravenclaw. It was not yet 8 o'clock, and there were few young wizards in the hall. Hermione was the only freshman sitting at the Gryffindor table. Seeing Wayne, she waved and said hello. Wayne walked over. "I'm going to follow Cedric to find the way in a while, do you want to come with me?" "Okay." Hermione agreed readily. She had read Hogwarts, a history, so she knew how difficult the school's stairs were to deal with. "The reason why I got up so early was to have time to familiarize myself with the place." After a few words, Wayne returned to the Hufflepuff table to have breakfast. Compared with yesterday's rich breakfast, today's breakfast is much simpler. Baked potatoes, bread, sausage, bacon, eggs, beans. Drinks include milk and several juices, hot cocoa. Wayne pulled himself 2 slices of bread, spread mayonnaise on them, and added a few slices of bacon and eggs to make a simple sandwich. Soon after he sat down, a parchment schedule appeared in front of him. First-year wizards have 8 courses this year: potions, charms, defense against the dark arts, transfiguration, history of magic, herbology, astronomy and flying. Astronomy and flying classes are only held once a week, and the astronomy class is in the evening. For the remaining 6 courses, There are 2 to 3 classes per week, each class lasting 50 minutes. Wayne has no classes on Wednesday and Thursday afternoons this semester. Including the weekend, his time is basically split equally between classes and holidays, which is quite relaxing. After a while, the twins also came to the auditorium. They looked around and found Wayne behind them, and immediately rushed over aggressively, as if they were here to accuse him. "Wayne, you dare to come out." Glancing at the passage behind the guest of honor seat, Wayne's expression changed and he asked in confusion. "Why am I afraid to come out? It's obviously you and Cedric who deceived me." Fred sneered. "We only told you. Who told you to tell other little wizards?" "I didn't know you were lying." "Don't pretend, Wayne." George made a face. "I can tell at a glance that you are not an honest man. It's always been me and Fred who played pranks on others, and we've never been tricked like this." Wayne showed a frightened expression. "What are you going to do? Aren't you afraid that I will sue Professor McGonagall?" Fred sneered. "What's the point of reporting it to Headmaster Dumbledore? Can you find evidence?" "Mr. Lawrence can't, but I can." An extremely cold female voice came from behind the two of them, and the smiles on Fred and George's faces froze. Moved to Wayne's face. Chapter 26. The Unspoken Rules of 1,000 Years. The Weasley twins paid the price for their arrogance. Originally, the two men were just threatening and had no real intention of revenge. They just wanted to see Wayne begging for mercy. But unfortunately, he was caught by Professor McGonagall, who had just arrived in the cafeteria. She had felt something was wrong when she saw her little lion standing at the long table of Hufflepuff House. When he got closer and listened, his face turned blue with anger. He is a student of 3 years, but he actually threatens a freshman who has just entered the school. When Wayne told her, the twins said they were not afraid even if Dumbledore knew about it. "Not afraid, right? I admire your determination to never surrender." The confinement that would have ended after wiping the trophy 3 times was doubled. After wiping the trophy, they also have to handwrite a list of famous Gryffindor alumni and their life stories. When they heard the punishment, the twins almost fainted. 3 times. Those books combined are at least several dozen inches thick. The two men did not bother to settle the score with Wayne, and under the fierce watchful eyes of Professor McGonagall, they returned to the Gryffindor table in dejection. "You definitely did that on purpose." Cedric watched the whole process and made an extremely confident judgment. Wayne continued to eat his sandwich and said calmly, "Everyone will die one day, and some people need a little help." Cedric was speechless. How on earth did this guy get sorted into Hufflepuff? Sorting hat. Are you blind? After breakfast, Hermione stood coquettishly beside Wayne, allowing Norman and Toby to secretly give her a thumbs up from an angle where the little witch couldn't see. "It's amazing that a cute little witch came to me right after I entered school." Although Hermione's hair is a little messy, her foundation is there and she is definitely the cutest thing without showing her teeth. The other freshmen saw them gathered together and asked curiously. Then the team immediately grew larger, and more than a dozen badgers gathered around Cedric. He had no choice but to call a few friends to help, and they divided into several teams. A group of people walked out of the passage and came to the teaching area. There are a total of 142 staircases in the entire castle, and their shapes and locations can change at any time. Maybe sometimes you walk up the stairs from the 3rd floor to the 4th floor, but once you step on them, the stairs will change their excuse and take you directly to the top floor. Honestly, I didn't really understand the pattern in the first 2 years, especially on Fridays, when these stairs go crazy. Even seniors who are about to graduate sometimes get lost if they are not careful. Cedric took Wayne and Hermione to the 3rd floor, and his 2 roommates followed the other seniors. Pay attention to this staircase. Don't exert any force or run when walking on it, otherwise it will take you directly to the 8th floor. There are 4 more staircases like this. I can't remember exactly. Maybe there are more. Hermione nodded vigorously and even took out a notebook to write it down. Wayne was a little bored. "Cedric, is this how you fool your brothers? Give me some real advice." "What do you mean?" Cedric looked at him blankly, not understanding what Wayne was referring to. Let's find a quick way to a secret passage outside the castle. What are you talking about? Cedric criticized righteously. How could I possibly know such a thing? Wayne, it's wrong to break school rules. Hermione seriously criticized Wayne's dangerous idea. If you haven't been caught, it means you haven't violated the law. Wayne waved his hand, not caring at all. Cedric patted him on the shoulder, and that said it all. He understood the most basic rules of the school as soon as he entered the school, and it was only at the end of last semester that he gradually understood all of this. Why is Filch, a squib, the school warden? Why is it that as long as students are not caught in person, they will not be deducted points or punished even if the teacher sees their backs? This is the unspoken rule of Hogwarts that has been passed down for thousands of years. It is a battle of wits and courage between teachers and students, and it is also a form of training. Many people only gradually understand the mystery here after graduation, or even after they start a family and a career, and therefore regret it too late. How much wonderful life they missed out on. Cedric smiled and said, now that you've said that, let me show you some of my skills. He took Hermione and Wayne to an empty picture frame and tapped it 3 times with his wand, and the picture frame turned into a real door. Go out through here and you'll reach the bushes near the Quidditch pitch. Time is limited, so I won't take you away. Next position. Next, Cedric introduced Wayne to 2 secret passages, one of which led to the other side of the castle, which could be used to avoid Filch and his cat, Mrs. Norris, when he was discovered while wandering at night. The other one leads from the 5th floor to the 2nd floor and can be used for traveling. Hermione's worldview gradually collapsed. She thought Cedric was the same type of person as her, who loved studying and was always ranked first. Now it seems that this is not the case at all. Okay, that's all for today. I have to get to the basement. The first class today is potions. As the time approached 9 o'clock, Cedric said something hastily and left. Let's stop being in a daze and go to the 2nd floor. Looking at Hermione, who was still a little overwhelmed, Wayne urged her. Their first class of the day was History of Magic, taught by Hufflepuff and Gryffindor together. Oh, Hermione followed the boy and finally couldn't help complaining. It shouldn't be like this. Aren't rules meant to be followed? Diggory is a good student, why should he? This is Hogwarts. Wayne suddenly stopped and turned around. The little witch almost fell into his arms. After all, the worldview of wizards is very different from that of muggles. Many things that seem excessive to you are actually not important in the wizarding world. The same is true for the rules. Wayne tempted Hermione like a little devil. Do you want to follow the rules and miss the real Hogwarts, or work hard to improve your ability to avoid teachers and explore this 1,000-year-old castle? Hermione was dizzy and her mind went blank. I just subconsciously held onto Wayne's clothes to ensure that I wouldn't get lost. The two came to the classroom, where quite a few people were already sitting, all with excited expressions on their faces. Until, a ghost appeared through the wall and on the podium. Chapter 27 Ron's Gratitude. What a great revenge. The little badgers and little lions showed great enthusiasm and anticipation for the first class. They fantasize about waving wands, chanting spells, mastering powerful magic, and gaining extra points from the professor. Unfortunately, after I got the timetable and found out that the first class was History of Magic, my enthusiasm dissipated a bit. He was even more shocked to find out that the professor was actually a ghost. Even worse was to come. Professor Binns' voice was magical and he spoke with a gasp. In less than 5 minutes, the little wizards began to droop their eyelids. Just as Wayne was about to close his eyes, Hermione pinched him with her little hand and whispered. Don't be distracted. Wayne looked helpless. Sister, am I distracted? I'm about to lose my soul. He reads out content from the textbook. I can memorize it after reading it once. There is no point in listening to the lecture. This is basic respect for the professor. Little McGonagall said seriously. She would not be fooled by Wayne in this regard. Wayne was already regretting sitting with Hermione at this point, and couldn't even catch up on some sleep. At the same time, he complained in his heart that all the headmasters of Hogwarts were misers. Professor Binns has been dead for hundreds of years. He must have been kept as professor of history of magic just to avoid paying him. As a teacher of history of magic who was invited by the 4 founders of Hogwarts since its establishment, Professor Binns was already very old at that time. One day he went to class and actually left his body on a chair in the staff lounge. After that, Hogwarts has never changed the professor of history of magic. A professor who does not ask for salary, does not take leave, and is always present every year is the best workforce that countless headmasters dream of. But this has brought suffering to generation after generation of young wizards, who have to endure torture in every class. For hundreds of years, no one has ever taken a NETW's course on history of magic. Hello, Wayne. While Wayne was cursing in his heart that the headmaster should be hanged under the streetlight, Ron, who was sitting at the table on the other side of him, suddenly greeted him in a low voice. Beside him, Harry Potter was nodding continuously and was about to fall asleep. Seeing Ron actually talking to Wayne, he suddenly perked up. "What's up, Ron?" Seeing that Hermione didn't care about him, Wayne replied with relief. "Oh, nothing." Ron shook his head. "I just wanted to say thank you. You're amazing. This is the first time I've seen George and Fred get humiliated by someone else." Twice. Ron was a little excited and his voice became much louder, waking up several little wizards from their sweet dreams. Harry looked at his best friend whom he had just met for a day with difficulty. Those who know would think the twins are your biological brothers, while those who don't would think they are your enemies. "You can think of Fred and the others as your cousins," Ron explained to Harry. In an instant, Harry's eyes changed and he understood completely. "You're welcome." Wayne didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't expect Ron to thank him for something like this. How badly the Geminis usually bully him. To be honest, when Wayne first read the novel and watched the movie, he was still very unhappy with the character of Ron. He is very jealous, tends to exaggerate himself, has no outstanding talent, and in the end he even married Hermione, who is the Minister of Magic. This is definitely a shady deal. But the older I get, the more I realize that Ron really has a hard time. I have 5 older brothers in total, 3 of whom have always been at the top of their grade and worked their way up from class monitor to student union president. Although the twins' learning ability is not that amazing, their ability to play pranks is definitely at a historical level. In such an environment abroad, Gemini's popularity is even higher than that of academic masters like Percy, and they are definitely influential figures. Further down the line, the older sister Ginny also inherited a strong magical talent. Only Ron, nothing. Growing up in such a high-pressure environment, Ron just has a slightly awkward personality, but he has no problem with major issues. It has been proven that he has a good foundation. Of course, this doesn't mean that Wayne will deliberately make friends with Ron. He just won't look at everyone with the previous stereotypes anymore. This is the real world, and everything is based on his own feelings. So far, he has a good feeling about Ron, and he can treat him as a friend who can say hello and chat when they meet. Professor Binns was lecturing at the top, and the 2 of them were chatting below, and finally Harry joined in. "Wayne, you are also from a Muggle family. That's great." "No, I mean we are really destined to be together. We don't live too far from each other. I live in Privet Drive, Surrey." In just a few words, Harry revealed all his secrets. Good-looking people usually find it easy to win the favor of others. Wayne is the best example. Harry has already regarded him as his first friend from other colleges. 50 minutes passed quickly, and before the get-out-of-class ended, Professor Binns left a 6-inch paper to explain the early origins of English wizards. The next class was Transfiguration, with Hufflepuff and Slytherin taking it together. Before they separated, the little witch angrily pulled Wayne to the corner. "You can't do this. You bought a lot of books before school started. I know you are a person who loves to study. You should listen carefully in class, even if the teacher is a ghost." Looking at Hermione, who was really like a little lion, Wayne nodded obediently. "Don't worry, I will definitely pay attention next time." Hermione didn't know whether Wayne had listened to her or not, but time was running out, so she could only glare at Wayne and leave in a hurry, feeling a little disappointed. She really regards Wayne as a friend, so she hopes that Wayne can study hard. Wayne understood this, so he was not angry at all. After a while, when Hermione sees his results, he will naturally not be like this today. The Transfiguration classroom was on the second floor, and Wayne and a group of little badgers walked into the classroom. The first thing he saw was the tabby cat on the table in front of him. He nodded slightly in greeting and found a seat to sit down. To be honest, he really wanted to play Professor McGonagall and see if the feel of an animagus would be better. But he had already witnessed Professor McGonagall's transformation during the summer vacation, and if he went up to her and tried to touch her again, he would be courting death. But Wayne knew, but many other little wizards didn't. Especially Hufflepuff. Most of the young wizards in this academy like animals and plants. After seeing the cats, some even took out snacks from their pockets to feed them. Wayne immediately showed an expression as if he was looking at the warriors. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 28 Transfiguration. Led by the Iron Hat King, several Hufflepuff girls are eager to make a move, but have not yet made up their minds. But as the time for class got closer, I felt that Professor McGonagall was about to arrive. In order not to miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Hannah, Bones, Juliet and several other girls came over, each holding some snacks in their hands. Damn it! Wayne's eyes widened. Miranda, where did you get the catnip? At this moment, the tabby cat, who was surrounded by the girls, suddenly smiled a human-like smile, jumped back, and turned back into Professor McGonagall, looking as serious as ever. Ms. Abbott, Miss Livingston, don't do such rash things in the wizarding world, especially when you can't tell what the creature in front of you is. After taking a look at the catnip, Professor McGonagall's mouth twitched imperceptibly. He is truly a Hufflepuff student, he can get all kinds of strange plants. Professor McGonagall, Professor McGonagall. The little witches were obviously frightened and began to stutter. Okay, class is about to start, please go back to your seats. Hearing this, several girls ran back to their seats as if they had been pardoned, with expressions of fear still on their faces. Even the other students who were watching the fun were startled and sat up straight waiting for class to start. This was a trick that McGonagall often used. When the young wizards entered school, she would transform into an animagus form to scare them and achieve the purpose of establishing her authority. It always worked. Soon, the class bell rang and Professor McGonagall started teaching. Transfiguration is the most dangerous and complex magic you will learn at Hogwarts. If anyone dares to act naughty in my class, I will ask him to leave and never be allowed to come in again. The vice headmaster's aura was fully on display, and the whole room fell silent. Malfoy and his two followers also shrank their necks. Even though Slytherin has Snape's protection, no one can protect them as long as Professor McGonagall gets angry. At the podium, McGonagall waved her hand, and densely packed words appeared on the blackboard. They were the Gamp's Law of Transfiguration, which was well known in the wizarding world. This is the basis of all transfiguration techniques, even an iron rule. Anyone who studies this should keep this knowledge in mind to avoid causing irreversible harm. The young wizards were taking notes quickly, and so was Wayne, but he was selective in what he took notes of. He had already mastered a lot of knowledge, so there was no need to waste ink. After they finished memorizing, McGonagall took out her wand and tapped the table, turning it into a pig. This move immediately attracted the little wizard's attention, and he let out exclamations, and his eyes changed from boredom to anticipation. As an old professor who has been teaching for decades, McGonagall's teaching level is absolutely unquestionable, and she knows what the young wizards most expect. Each person was given a match. The goal of this class, or even this month's class, was to turn the match into a needle. Transfiguration is classified according to difficulty, from easy to difficult. Dead things become dead things, living things become dead things become living things, and living things become living things. The further you go, the greater the difference in difficulty. Well, let alone the future, just the first class was enough to stump everyone. Hannah almost broke the toothpick with her magic wand, but her toothpick still didn't change. Her deskmate Susan was much stronger. In 5 minutes, She successfully turned the matchstick green. Change, change, change for me. Malfoy gritted his teeth, wand barreling. Bang! A firework flew out from the top and nearly blew up his table. Mr. Malfoy, I told you to focus. There is no point in being angry. McGonagall frowned and criticized, because of your recklessness, Slytherin will be deducted 1 point. Yes, Professor, I understand. Malfoy, who was afraid to explode, could only take another match. This is too difficult. Toby made his match flash silver light, and at first he thought it was successful, but then he found that the match did not change at all. It's okay. Just concentrate and focus on the matches. Don't think about the consequences of success or failure. Wayne casually made a suggestion, and with a flick of his wand, the match turned into a silver needle with one end thick and the other thin. There are delicate patterns on the thick end. Just then Mag passed by and was surprised and delighted to see that he had succeeded. Perfect, Mr. Lawrence. This one move alone is something that many young wizards cannot accomplish in a whole semester. She looked at Wayne with admiration. You have a talent for transfiguration. Keep up the hard work, Mr. Lawrence. 5 points for Hufflepuff. Thank you, Professor. Wayne thanked him obediently. Toby and Norman at the front table looked at Wayne as if he were a traitor. Didn't you say you've never been exposed to magic before? How come you succeeded so quickly? Fraud, Wayne said confidently. I just did some previews when I was bored during the summer vacation. What's the problem? Toby muttered. Who would prepare for the class? This shows a huge lack of trust in the professor's teaching ability. Okay, you still know how to speak. Many students also looked at Wayne with envy, and the Slytherins were mostly jealous. What these purebloods have not been able to do was actually accomplished by a little muggle wizard. It's a slap in the face. Pity. Until the end of the get out of class, no student had succeeded. The one who came closest only managed to slightly change the shape of the match without changing the material at all. However, Wayne was the only one who succeeded, and Professor McGonagall was very surprised. She even exempted him from the transfiguration homework this week. Toby and Norman's eyes turned red. But nothing can stop the little badgers from eating. As soon as the get out of class was over, the little wizard rushed to the cafeteria with his schoolbag. Wayne, who was leisurely, became the odd one out. He lowered his head and walked slowly towards the cafeteria, thinking about ways to make money in his mind. Through last night's routine, he found out how much pocket money many little wizards had. Now that the school has just started, their wallets are the fullest, but after a while, they will spend a lot. We must seize the time. Because Wayne was walking with his head down and thinking too deeply, he didn't notice a girl walking towards him at the corner. The two men collided with each other. Ouch! The crisp sound woke Wayne up. I'm sorry. Are you okay? Chapter 29. It's great to have 7 people together, even if it's Ravenclaw. The black-haired girl who had fallen down in front of Wayne stood up while rubbing her forehead, revealing her beautiful and delicate face. It's okay, my forehead just hurts a little. Sorry, I was just thinking about something and didn't look at the road. Although he is the future devil, Wayne is also a man of character, and he was the one who was at fault in the first place. Without waiting for the girl to speak, he stretched out his finger and whispered, healed as before. The girl felt a warm feeling on her forehead and instantly discovered that the pain in her forehead was gone. She could also see through the mirror next to her that the redness and swelling that had just appeared had disappeared. Healing spell, and wandless casting, you are so amazing. She looked at Wayne excitedly. My name is Chu Jong, what's your name? Wayne Lawrence. This is Chu Jong. Wayne looked at the girl. She was very different from what she appeared in movies and TV shows. She was definitely a standard Chinese beauty. I remember now, you are the Mao Zhang from yesterday. Chu suddenly realized. Wayne smiled and nodded. Yes, if I had known there were so many beauties in Ravenclaw, I might as well have gone to Ravenclaw. He still knew how to say nice things, and sure enough, when Chu heard Wayne praising him like that, he felt a little shy but also a little happy. The distance between the two of them suddenly shortened a lot, and they walked towards the auditorium talking and laughing. Snort. After the two left, a light snort was heard from the other side of the door. Hermione, who had just finished her herbology class, witnessed the whole process. Thinking back to Wayne's attitude when she first met him, somehow, the little witch felt a little uncomfortable. Quidditch tryouts will begin next week, and I don't know if I'll be chosen. Wayne and Chu had a good chat. The only disagreement between them was that Wayne was so smart that he should have come to Ravenclaw instead of Hufflepuff. But Wayne thinks that Ravenclaw is not the only one with smart people, such as Professor McGonagall and Dumbledore, who are students from other colleges. Of course, there was one thing he didn't say out loud. That is, Wayne believes that the so-called cleverness of Ravenclaw is mostly just self-righteous cleverness or calculating shrewdness. Look at what Ravenclaw graduates get. This semester's defense against the dark arts professor, Quirrell, was tricked into becoming a Jinchuriki by the remnant soul of Voldemort with just a few words. Lockhart next term, a complete liar. Barty Crouch was indeed an elite wizard and one of the most capable officials in the Ministry of Magic, but he was obsessed and secretly brought young Barty out of Azkaban, which triggered a series of subsequent disasters. From this perspective, most Ravenclaws are just a little clever and have completely missed the essence. But Wayne certainly couldn't tell Chu about these comments. Otherwise, the girl who is still smiling sweetly now may turn hostile in an instant. Heard she was worried about Quidditch tryouts. Wayne also comforted him. Don't worry, Cedric said that it would be good enough for the Ravenclaw Quidditch team to have 7 people. If you sign up, you will definitely be selected. Ravenclaw is dominated by feminine elements and there are many weirdos in it, so they are not enthusiastic about participating in group activities. There is nothing wrong with what Cedric said, it is very objective. Chu's face had turned dark. Cedric, the third-year top-ranked seeker of Hufflepuff. Thank you for your encouragement. I'm going to practice now. I will definitely play in the next match against Hufflepuff. Chu was so inspired that his competitive spirit was completely ignited. The position she originally wanted to compete for was Seeker, and she secretly practiced at home for a long time during the summer vacation. As long as she could be selected, when she competed with Hufflepuff, she would definitely catch the golden snitch and let Cedric see the consequences of looking down on Ravenclaw. Wayne smiled and watched the girl leave. The host sows discord and destroys the relationship between the two academies. Reward points +50. Tisk. Fortunately, this system comes with such an easy-going master, otherwise it would have to be uninstalled. What do you mean by sowing discord? He was just repeating Cedric's original words without adding any exaggeration. Besides, isn't it normal to talk trash before the game? He hasn't even mentioned anything more cruel yet. For example, Fred told a secret on the train yesterday. Quidditch games between each house and Ravenclaw take a long time. Why? There are 7 players, 5 of whom are girls, and the 2 batsmen are also girls. Apart from playing Quidditch, where else can you have the opportunity to have so many girls play with you and even chase you? When it came to this, not only the twins, but even Cedric showed a lewd smile, enjoying it very much. In the afternoon, there were 2 consecutive charms classes. Professor Flitwick stood on a pile of books and called the roll. When he read Harry Potter, he screamed excitedly and fell off the book. It took a long time to recover the excitement and start the first spell class. Spells are the basis of everything. Learning spells is not only to master them, but also to improve the efficiency of learning other spells and let the little wizards have their own understanding of magic. This is also the reason why Harry was able to quickly master the disarming spell and the armor spell after being exposed to them. With a solid foundation, you will be able to learn other spells much faster. Today we are going to learn the most basic spell, the illumination spell. It is very simple. The spell is fluorescent flash. What's wrong? Who made you unhappy? Wayne still sat with Hermione, but the little witch didn't give him a good look. Seeing Wayne sit down, he turned his fair face to the other side without saying a word. It's almost written on my face that I'm unhappy. Come and comfort me. Wayne thought about it and decided that it definitely wasn't because of what happened in the history of magic class. Hermione wasn't that petty. So what happened? Don't talk to me in class, Mr. Lawrence. Well, now that Mr. Lawrence has been called out, the culprit has been found. Wayne couldn't guess what the little witch was angry about, but he had no experience in coaxing girls, so he just ignored it. As Professor Flitwick allowed everyone to practice freely, the classroom suddenly became noisy. The sounds of chanting mantras rose and fell. Wayne raised his wand and whispered. Lumos. Chapter 30. Explosion Genius, so terrifying. As Professor Flitwick said, the illumination charm is a very basic spell. After knowing the spells and gestures, and adding some tips from Flitwick, the young wizards quickly got the hang of it. The classroom was dotted with stars, sometimes bright and sometimes dim. In order to make the light more obvious, the professor thoughtfully pulled the curtains. A bright ball of light appeared at the tip of Wayne's wand, with moderate brightness and a stable light source. It's not like other little wizards who flicker on and off. Very good, Mr. Lawrence, 2 points for Hufflepuff. Professor Flitwick came over and praised. He didn't show too much excitement. After all, the illumination spell was so simple that one could master it with a little practice. Flitwick only gave 2 points as encouragement because Wayne's was big, round and long-lasting. Hermione glanced sideways, raised her head, snorted coldly, and also chanted a spell. The tip of her wand lit up, but not as brightly as Wayne's. The light was still too bright and a little blinding. When the little witch wanted to lower the brightness, the spell dissipated due to her lack of control over her magic power. Puff. Wayne found it so funny that he laughed out loud accidentally. What are you laughing at? You're just more skilled than me, Hermione said angrily, and then cast an illumination spell again. The performance this time was even worse. The wand just lit up for a moment and then stopped responding. You need to keep a calm mind to be able to output steadily, Wayne instructed. So, Miss Granger, can you tell me how I pissed you off again? Hermione said sourly. Why bother with me? Go find your Ravenclaw senior. Question mark question mark question mark. Wayne's head was full of question marks. First of all, he and Chu just exchanged a few words, but Hermione saw it, which was quite unusual. Secondly, little witch, what do you mean by that tone? There's nothing going on between us yet. No, Hermione also realized that there was something wrong with her tone and quickly explained. You were trying to cheat me out of money the first time we met, but you were so mean to that Ravenclaw. What are you talking about? Wayne glanced around and found that Professor Flitwick had walked away, which made him feel relieved. Am I cheating you out of your money? I'm just doing good things. Knowledge is priceless. I only spent 2 sickles to read a week's worth of books. Tell me if I made money or not. It's quite profitable, Hermione nodded subconsciously. But I always feel something is wrong. That's fine. It's precisely because you love studying so much that I reluctantly lent you the book. I promise, if Chu asks me to borrow a book, I won't give it to him. After another round of fooling around, Hermione couldn't help but smile, not noticing at all that Wayne had started calling Chu by her first name. The little wizards were practicing magic for the entire class, and Toby came over with a distressed look on his face. Wayne, is there any way to make the lights steady? They're like the lights on a police car, they're blinding me. How should I put it? Wayne pondered for 2 seconds. Just imagine that you are holding a torch instead of a wand, and be firm in this thought. Toby returned to his seat, thoughtful. What did Wayne say? Norman asked. They both have the same problem. Their lights flash constantly, one looks like a police car and the other like an ambulance. Wayne said to imagine that what he was holding was not a wand, but a torch, and to concentrate. Then I'll try. Norman nodded, raised his wand high, and roared with great momentum. Lumos. Boom. There was light, but it was fire. Long snakes of fire gushed out, startling Professor Flitwick, who quickly summoned water to put out the fire. What a talented person. Wayne was amazed. His roommate was indeed no simple person. He chanted the illumination spell and used the fire spell. If this were used in battle, it would definitely be a great way to ambush someone. Mr. Sherlock, Mr. Lawrence's method is correct, but don't get excited. You should hold the torch, not throw it away. Professor Flitwick explained in a daze that he was also very scared just now, but fortunately his wand was raised upwards. If it was in front of people, Madame Pomfrey in the infirmary would complain to him again. After a few more reminders, Professor Flitwick continued to patrol the classroom, helping the young wizards master spells. He originally thought that Norman had gone too far, but who could have imagined that even worse was yet to come. Mr. Finnegan, loosen your grip a little, your wand is about to break. There should be pauses when chanting the mantra, Lumos, Maximum, remember this rhythm. No wonder Professor Flitwick has won the title of Hogwarts' most popular professor for 16 consecutive years. He is patient, good-tempered, and provides students with plenty of internship opportunities. I'm sure everyone likes him. Seamus, who was nervous just now, became much more relaxed after being comforted by Flitwick. He raised his head confidently, and the wand in his hand turned into a baton, drawing a graceful arc. His deskmate Neville looked at him expectantly, and Flitwick gave him an encouraging look. Seamus. Wayne frowned, feeling a bad premonition. Isn't this the genius who does explosives? He and Hermione were only separated from Seamus Navi by a table of Norman and Toby. When Wayne heard that Seamus had already started to chant the spell, he felt a growing bad premonition. Lumos, Maximum, get down. Wayne pulled Hermione without thinking, and the little witch lost her balance and fell into Wayne's arms. Almost at the same time. Boom! A huge buzzing sound appeared in everyone's ears, and a strong explosion enveloped the spell classroom. More than a dozen little witches screamed so loudly that their eardrums were almost pierced. The three people at the center of the explosion, Seamus and Neville, had charred faces and afro hair. Professor Flitwick, because of his short stature, managed to escape the disaster. But because they were closest to the explosion, they suffered temporary deafness. Hiccup. Seamus burped and blew out 2 smoke rings, but his eyes were extremely bright and he was unaware of his situation. Professor, did you see that? It just lit up. What did you say? Professor Flitwick asked loudly. I said, it lights up. Flitwick stumbled and nearly fell. Well said, don't say it again next time. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories. And never miss out on a great listen.